if there are you've omitted, you can just go to the page and tell us which page we put whatever a resolution that we have taken and is not included. But I'm on grammar. Our content advisor and our researchers and need to go through the report, because I don't want us to waste time in reading the is and as present tenses. We need our content advisor to concentrate on that. And I'm sure the researchers, Tasneem and Christel, you need to also assist and check on other things that gotten to include in the report. So I declare this meeting officially all open. I welcome you all, honorable members. I'm told by Nelisa that Unchanja has lost her mother. I don't know whether today or yesterday. Rest in peace, and our deepest condolences to the family, Yaganchanja. I'm not sure whether Unchanja, she's part of the meeting, but that message now. And, you know, losing a mother, it's not a small thing. Unchanja, I think she has joined the club. Myself and Honorable Sheriff, we lost our mothers last, and our sincere condolences to her family. You are all welcome, honorable members. Well, on the preambles and the introduction, unless maybe there is something report, you saw that there are things that we need to add, but I take it that our researchers and Kashifa the report thoroughly, but you know, as the portfolio committee, we need also whatever we want to put so that our report can have weight. But I think the other thing in how we resolve the issues, the concerns that we have raised, we need to make sure that when we need to put time frames, and there are instances where we don't put time frames. I don't know whether Dr. Tembe, our legal person, is part of the meeting. So Dr. Tembe can also advise us on what we resolved in terms of the forensic investigation that we wanted to do, the Commission for Gender Equality. But I think Kashifa and Dr. Tembe, the things that you think they are the ones that we can recommend as the portfolio committee. I spoke to Dr. Tembe, and unfortunately we couldn't finish other things. It's not a train smash because we can still finalize that next week. But in terms of how we resolve the forensic investigations, the terms and of the terms of reference to present to us, you can present today. But if we haven't concluded, maybe your thoughts according to what we have agreed on in terms of consultation, and then later on we can look at them thoroughly, so that next week, Tuesday, when we're dealing with the finalizing the appointments for CGE commissioners, we can therefore consider what as part of our resolutions. But I'm sure today we think will represent our BRRR report. Yeah, I thought that maybe in my opening remarks, these are the few things that I wanted to present to the portfolio committee. Yeah, you're all welcome, honorable members. I declare this meeting officially open. I can now hand over to stages. Nelisa, any apology?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Chair and members and my colleagues. There are no apologies, Chair. Thank you.
So I don't know whether it's from my side or it's from her side.
Chair, it seems as though your network is not stable. We are also struggling to hear you.
Yeah.
We are struggling to hear you, Chair. Your network is not stable.
You are struggling to hear me?
Yes, Honorable
Yes, Chair.
The apologies.
Recording in progress.
There were no apologies, Chairperson.
Yeah. Yeah.
No apologies, Chairperson.
Oh, okay, no problem. I see there's a hand. I will change the place where I am now. Let me use my iPad. I'll use my iPad, it's okay. I see a hand. I don't know whose hand is it.
So it's and Honorable Boni Mareko.
Okay. Honorable Boni.
No, Chair, good morning to you and to members and our support team on the platform. I must just indicate, Chair, I'm in an area, I've been struggling for the whole week. For now, I don't have what is this, load shedding, but the weather, I don't know the impact it has on the network, because I don't lose connection, but there are instances where I can't hear when other people are talking. So you'll bear with me, Chair.
Okay.
That I've been struggling even yesterday. I don't know whether you have freezer or what, but there's a challenge with network from my side. So I will be, but I'm in the meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Honorable Boni. We are in Northern Cape.
Yes, Chair.
Askis Auswak, Askis. But will pardon you if you are raising issues that have been raised, because already we have informed us what is the problem from your side. Don't worry.
Thanks, Chair.
Kashifa?
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, members. Chairperson and members, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to the committee as well as our support team, because this BRRR could not have been done without the support and the input of the collective. It takes a lot of hard work, and it's not just between Tuesday when we had our last meeting and last night when the report gets put together. It's a whole year's worth of work that takes us to this point. So I think that's very important to note. I just think practically, just in terms of the timing around the BRR, we have incredibly short time frames to produce and consider such a large volume. And it's definitely something Parliament should reconsider and take on, given the very, very, very short time frames. Secondly, Chairperson, thank you. We will look at some of the inputs from members with regards to the paper. But there's three things I thought I'd bring to your attention. One, in terms of the forensic investigation. Roman and I had a discussion about, from a legal perspective, what is the committee best advised to do moving forward? And based on what he had told me, when looking at the PFMA, the Public Audit Act, as well as prescripts with the National Treasury, a forensic investigation can only happen in relation to information that's not in the public domain. And if we look at the matters in relation to the CGE, technically, because we used the annual report and because there were quarter reports and because there was engagement on it, the information is in the public domain. So the forensic, technically, investigation can't be requested. That aside, in terms of the role of the Auditor General, they do have a specific role in terms of looking at matters with regards to audits. And when we check the PFMA, there's a provision that says the Auditor General can be requested to do an investigation. So hence within our BRR, there's in terms of the recommendations, there's specific recommendation for the Auditor General in relation to the matters members had requested. In essence, I've drawn up initially the terms of reference to look at what members will do, and I've made sure that it's incorporated into the BRRR. And again, in terms of the advice that Herman, I sent the BRR off to Herman just to have a look at again, but I haven't received any feedback, but I ensured based on a discussion it was captured. So in essence, the matters pertaining to the payment of commissioners, that can be looked at as a request by the committee in terms of investigation by the Auditor General, as well as the application of the determination of the President's position around the salaries for commissioners, that too. The other two matters which the committee raised, which requested an investigation, pertains to one, the Provident Fund matter around the 17%, and the leave in terms of gratuity. In those two instances, what Herman had indicated to me is that when it comes to the Provident Fund, there's a court process underway. So we can't request for parallel process in terms of investigation. But in terms of what can we ask for recommendation is that the committee is furnished with a comprehensive report in terms of how it came about, who's implicated, what is the current status. And then only once they've concluded, whether it's the court processes and the like, can we follow through. In terms, if we're not happy then, and only then can we request for investigation. With respect to the CEO matter and the leave gratuity, again, Herman's suggestion was, until we actually receive a report from CGE HR that indicates this is when a contract ended, this is how much leave she had left over, and this is how much she was paid. Once we only engage with a formal report, can we make a determination for a follow-up recommendation in terms of whether there should be an investigation. So that captures the matters pertaining to the investigation. Secondly, Chairperson and members, if you can indulge me, I just want to show you one of the reports our department has sent the committee, and Nelisa had sent it to members, I think some time ago, probably about 2 or 3 months ago, which shows it's one of the targets achieved. I think this is very important, which I'll explain to members now, if you just allow me to share my screen.
Well,
yes, Chairperson.
Kashifa, we are talking about the Department of Women.
Yes, Chairperson.
No, just wait.
Okay.
Let's finish the CGE issues first.
Okay. What
With CGE, the concern we're having in terms of payment of part-time commissioners was the 100 hours that they took a resolution. Remember, they are an independent institution. And in terms of hours, it's stipulated in the act that they can work up to how many hours. And they came to the portfolio committee and present on the resolution that they have taken as commissioners on how are they going to pay part-time commissioners during COVID. We remember, we adopted that report with them. So I don't want us to shoot ourselves in our feet here. What we are concerned about is that the chairperson of CGE, Ms. Matebula, was supposed to attach a document, a supporting document on the resolutions that they have taken, so that when Auditor General do auditing, cannot have a finding regarding that. But also the second issue was for them to put in a, what do they call it? A supporting document where they write on the work, the hours, on how do they reach 100 hours. I think those were the two things that they were supposed to have corrected as commissioners. But it must not sound like we are against the 100 hours, because they came to the portfolio committee and presented it and we agreed. But we said to them, they must go work on how are they going to explain that 100 hours. So the finding from the Auditor General, what we need to have is a report from the chairperson on why didn't she put that document? Why didn't she include that document? Last year, when there was an audit finding, but remember, it was not the Auditor General's finding, it was an internal audit finding based on the dispute that was written by other commissioners. Another one was the issue of Commissioner Day that we've been fighting all along, of her being paid whilst she was not working. Which hours was she claiming for? I think that's the other one. Gucci, what claims did she submit? Because she was saying, her parents were sick and so forth and so forth. So why was she putting claims when she was not at work? Thirdly, why was if Commissioner Day is claiming those hours, whereas she's working full-time at the University of Pretoria? So when does she do the work? When does she do the work of CGE? When she's employed full-time by University of Pretoria? So what we need to scrutinize there is the reports that she's submitting of the work that she's saying she's claiming to be doing while she's at full-time at the university. Because we have empirical evidence in terms of her not attending to her duties in the Eastern Cape. Most of the work that is done in the Eastern Cape is done by the chair. So that is the basis of our argument and concerns of the portfolio committee. Hence, we said we wanted a forensic investigation so that they can go deeper. And also, remember when you do forensic investigation, they will go further to university and check hours of working, which is she's working from what time to what time, and vis-a-vis what she's submitting to CGE. So those are the things that we want to get, because she's been taking us to the media, wrongfully so, trying to co-opt us or intimidate us, so that when she puts the photo of the chairperson, myself, as the chair a portfolio committee of the portfolio committee to City Press and whatsoever, she was trying to intimidate me with those lawyers also from vets. Maybe she was thinking that we'll leave this case and say, because this person is trying to litigate us and so forth and so forth. So these are the things that we are saying as the portfolio committee. We are not backing off. We want to get a report on the claims that she was submitting. What were the claims for? So that one, it's not an information that is in the public domain. So I want you guys to work on things that are in the public domain separately from things that are not in the public domain. So it's a twofold a report that we want as the portfolio committee, so that we are clear. The one, and again, the one of the leaves that were paid to the former CEO and other people that we don't even know. But because we have this one that is there now, it's a finding from the internal audit report or from the Auditor General's report. How are we going to get facts? Are you going to write questions, or are you going to send something to CGE that they must give us a full report, a detailed report regarding the payments of leaves by the former CEO, not the one that resigned yesterday, the former one. That's the third one. The last one is the payment of former commissioners that were paid after 2 years. What were the basis? What were the reasons of them being paid? So I think yourself and Dr. Tembe and maybe our researchers separate those reports, put them aside so that next week, Tuesday, if we are not ready, you don't have that report today. Put them aside and say, come back to the portfolio committee and say, these are the things that we think they will form part of the forensic report. And these are the things that we feel strong that CGE need to explain to the portfolio committee. In terms of what you are explaining now, include, because Dr. Tembe also told me that information that is in the public domain does not require forensic investigation, because that one is there. But remember, there is a code of conduct who somebody must take full responsibility on the actions that are presented in CGE. Who must be charged? And if those people were not charged, why were they not charged? But remember, the intention of the portfolio committee is to recoup the money that have been paid to those individuals. So I don't want us to dwell on the one of 100 hours as if, as the portfolio committee, they didn't come and present to us. They did came to present to us, but have they corrected in the findings, according to the findings, on what was supposed to have been done by them? Yeah, so let's separate those items, Kashifa, so that at least at the end of the day, we know exactly how are we dealing with these things, and we are not confusing ourselves. Is there a hand from honorable members? Honorable Sheriff?
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning once again. Chairperson, look, I hear what Kashifa is saying with the advice from Dr. Tembe. Chair, it's just, you know, for me, I'm also struggling. Yes, they came to report, but they said that they're only doing it for a certain time period, and that was until October. However, the continuation of the payment of 100 hours until today, for me, is problematic, Chairperson, because yes, it's in the public domain, and they presented a report to the committee 100%. But that report stated that it will only be from April to October. And so it's gone almost a year, perhaps, that it's still doing 100 hours, number one. Number two, the timesheets and the work that they've given does not add up to 100 hours, Chairperson. So basically, commissioners are claiming for work done, but if you look at the work done in the report given, it doesn't make any logical sense that that would add up to 100 hours. And so that is why, you know, I agreed with you, Chair, that an investigation must happen, because number one, who allowed the payments to continue? Who is responsible for that? Who must be held accountable for that? And what happens to all the money that has been paid already? Chairperson, this is my issue with the 100 hours. So as much as it's in the public domain, I agree, they presented to, we agreed, because it made sense at the time that commissioners needed, you know, they also have families that are working, they're doing the job, they must be remunerated according to it. But now, what's the explanation for getting paid 100 hours for the month of September 2022 or the month of October 2022 when everybody has gone back to work?
Honorable Sheriff, you are right. Let's question them on 2022, because I think they were supposed to have ended somewhere in December last year, if I'm not mistaken, 2021. But let's get the correct information from their side. And you see, the person who signs off the payments between the chair, the deputy chair, and the CFO, those are the people that we must hold accountable. So that, because for me, we will be unfair if now we're saying they must explain the 100 hours when they were presenting at the portfolio committee in 2020, we did not ask all those things. So we must not also put ourselves in trouble here. So, but it will make sense if we are asking about 2022. Guti, why did they continue to pay 400 hours in 2022? We need an explanation from the office of the chair and the CEO and the CFO. So that's why I'm saying we must not also shoot ourselves. Where we have agreed as the portfolio committee, we have agreed, but where we can question is after the initial presentation that they've made to the portfolio committee, that it will end when. But the one that starts after the time frame that they have given us, that is the one that is relevant for us to question. Sorry. So that is the one that you are questioning. I agree with you. That's why I wanted us to be clear first as honorable members, so that we don't cloud the whole thing. I second what you're saying. Let's concentrate on the one that they have, the payments that they've done after it was supposed to be ended somewhere in December or January. Because 2022, why would you pay for 100 hours, whereas there's no COVID? We're no longer in level 5, or level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, we're in level 0. So what informs that payment? So that's why I need our staff to separate that, and we concentrate on the ones that are starting in 2022. But we need to read their report so that when we question them, it must be from where they were supposed to have ended it. And what did the office of the chair do? Because the chairperson and the CEO and the CFO, they should comply. They are the ones who are dealing with policy. They should read documents. How do you approve payment when you did not consider PFMA, when you did not even consider the policy? They must stick to their resolutions. So I think we're done with that one. Kashifa, I think it's clear to you, that one.
Thank you, Chairperson. If Chairperson would allow me, and members, can I go to the BRR report exactly to that observation section? Then members can see what's been captured, whether you agree to it, and then move to the recommendations so that you can see what has been requested. So that based on the discussions now, we ensure that the correct message is being translated. Chairperson, if that is okay. I see Ms. Schlengwa's hand is up before I share the report.
I want to know, Chair, Mam Schlengwa, Honorable Mam Schlengwa.
Chairperson, good morning to you and honorable members.
Good morning, Ma.
I'm fully support what you have said, Chairperson, because these three, Chair, CFO, CEO, are the executive who are accountable to this pandemic. Therefore, they should account for this. You cannot sign the payment, whereas you know exactly that the work is not done. Therefore, I'm 100% support you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mam Schlengwa. Thank you very much, Ma. So, and then we'll include Ma le yagadei ya lesa skhathi lesiya ukuthi wayena waye badalwa.
Yes.
When she was claiming that her parents were sick and so forth. So how was she submitting claims when she's not working?
When she's not working?
Yeah.
Why?
She was paid for what? That's public money.
Yes.
So we need to recoup that money.
Yes.
Including the 100 hours for as Mayoma, when she's not coming to the portfolio committee and
report.
She's not even attending some their plenary meetings.
I knew it very much. I knew.
Yeah. So those are the things that we want. With regarding to the payment of both leave and a 13th check, that also needs to be investigated properly. I am not satisfied. I'm not convinced on what the CFO was presenting that day.
And I too, I'm not convinced.
Yeah, it needs proper investigation. Why was this thing not discussed? Why were other commissioners not aware?
Yeah.
Why
there's a fraud here?
And that also in the element corruption, according to my reading. How those amounts are differing. There's inconsistencies.
Exactly.
2019, the amount was different. 2020, the amount is different. 2021 is different. It cannot be different because remember, for the past 3 years, they were not getting salary increment. I've been presenting that report to the House. And
Yes.
we've been adopting that report, those salary determination by the president. But there is 0 percentage of increment for them and us as members of parliament.
Exactly.
So if it differa kanjani?
No.
So that needs to be investigated.
Yes.
I don't know whether I must say forensic or what, but that, Dr. Tembe and Kashifa, it needs to be investigated.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I just focus on what's on the BRRR report? Just to reassure Chairperson and members, the matters pertaining to what you discussed now and how we've been covered. Like I hear you saying you don't want to be sure. Yeah. So just looking at
BRRR report, Kashifa, you can start presenting the BRRR report, but don't go to the vision and mission. You will know the vision and mission and whatever. Just go straight to your overview, and then so that honorable members can concentrate there and do the consent and the recommendation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. So I'm moving straight into the section that covers the CGE, given that that's been the matter for discussion now. So just looking at this particular issue, performance of commissioners. So we capture that in terms of overview of meetings. The committee observed that the subcommittee, plenary, special section 6 and portfolio committees were presented by the chairperson of the CGE and amounted to an average of 1 per quarter. Given the serious challenges experienced within the CGE for the year under review, it's unclear why certain committees did not meet more often, for example, HR, finance, and governance. So just taking back to Chairperson's concern about the issue of the 100 hours. For us to have had a comprehensive assessment of the commissioners and what they do, Ms. Tamara only presented the overview of meetings recently to the committee. So it's for the first time you could look at what commissioners were doing, not just for this financial year or the one in relation to the annual report, but also before that in relation to the attendance of meetings. So that's a very key point. In terms of absenteeism, the committee noted the absenteeism of commissioners at these meetings presented by the chairperson. To this end, the committee inquired the implications were, what the implications were for a commissioner not attending more than 3 consecutive meetings, as the commissioner's handbook clearly outlines what the repercussions ought to be. The committee was concerned that no consequent management had been implemented against commissioners who had missed 3 consecutive meetings. Furthermore, in light of the contestation regarding the 100-hour flat rate for part-time commissioners, it was unclear to the committee how attendance to these meetings constituted significant proportion to the 100 hours per month, given that meetings were held on average 1 per quarter. With regards to the Botha matter, the committee noted with concern that Commissioner Botha was invited to speak at an event on behalf of the CGE while still on suspension. The matter was brought to the attention of the CGE by the committee, and the committee requested feedback in that regard. As the committee had not received any formal correspondence from the CGE prior to the committee meeting in that regard, the committee sought an explanation about how the commission dealt with the matter. The committee was dissatisfied with the response provided by the CGE that it had yet to look into the matter. In terms of HR, the committee noted that the term of office of 4 commissioners would come to an end on 31 October, which included the chairperson and the deputy chairperson. As such, the committee inquired about the continuity plans in place. The committee deemed this important to ensure a smooth transition for the incumbent commissioners. The committee noted the staff turnover, particularly resignations, and inquired about the challenges related to staff retention. To this end, the committee asked about mitigation strategies to ensure institutional memory. The committee recalled that it had previously recommended to the CGE to conduct exit interviews and questioned whether this was implemented. In terms of finance, underspending, the committee noted with concern the underspending, 14.2 million, and requested an explanation in that regard. Given the importance of the work rendered by the CGE, the committee deemed it unacceptable that funds are not utilized optimally, particularly for an institution that claims it is under-resourced and requires more funding. Fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The committee noted the concern the fruitless and wasteful expenditure of over 5 million incurred by the CGE, of which over 2 million related to the 2021 payment of part-time commissioners without timesheets. The 17% Provident Fund, the committee noted with concern that the matter related to the payment of certain officials had still not been resolved. This despite the committee having recommended in its 2021 Budget Review Report that the CGE should submit to the committee in writing a comprehensive report on the 17% Provident Fund issue. The CGE provided the committee with an update on the matter, its briefing of the annual report, and stated that the matter has still not been resolved. It would appear that no officials have been held to account in this regard for having implemented the policy decision from the onset, nor why it cannot be rescinded. In other words, why it can't be stopped. This was particularly concerning for the committee. Payment of leave to former leave gratuity to former CFO. The committee was not completely satisfied with the explanation provided by the CFO regarding the leave payout of the former CEO, whose contract terminated in 2020. The committee was made aware of an erroneous leave gratuity payout to the former CEO. The CGE had briefed the committee in this regard in 2020 and 2021 on this matter. It would appear that the matter has still not been resolved. The committee sought more information in this regard and was not satisfied with the slow pace of progress in resolving the matter. 13th check, the committee noted that 2 commissioners received a 13th check payment in 2021-22 and questioned why this was the case. The committee was satisfied with the response by the CFO in this regard, which related to the manner in which commissioners had structured their total package. Payment of commissioners, payment of part-time commissioners. The committee noted with serious concern the fruitless and wasteful expenditure incurred of over 2 million, which attributed again to the payment of part-time commissioners without the requisite timesheets. The committee noted that the CGE had informed members via correspondence sent on the 21st of September, dealing with the Q4 of 2021 and Q1 of 21-22. The report that was sent was Audit Committee response to the Portfolio Committee questions. Sent to the committee from the CGE's Audit and Risk Committee. The following was noted, and in that section of the report, number 3, human resources, audit internal control deficiencies identified to HR are as follows. Part-time commissioners' salaries paid without supporting documentation. In that, for the period April to 2020 to October 2020, when the country was in a national state due to COVID-19, part-time commissioners were paid 100 hours without supporting documentation. Further to this, the salary was paid without supporting timesheets approved by the executive authority. So just in terms of Chair's concern about, they informed us about the 100 hours and based on the outcome of the resolution in plenary, and that was in the year 2020. But nearly a year later, in September 2021, the committee received formal correspondence which showed what the issue is as articulated by the ARC. From the correspondence received and the documents assessed, the payment of 100 hours exceeded the time period of April to October 2020. The payment arrangement exceeded the time frame and the committee was unaware and not informed. So picking up on Ms. Sharif's point that we didn't know that it went beyond October 2020. Furthermore, part-time commissioners were paid 100 hours flat rate for 22 months, not having submitted timesheets and or template as per CGE Finance Department, which is an indictment on the CGE. This was noted as a matter of serious concern. The committee acknowledged plenary's decision to implement the 100-hour flat rate on account of force majeure for the time period stipulated as cited above. So this covers Chair's concern that they did present to us. However, the committee, having received and assessed the Commissioner's progress reports per quarter for 2021-2022, in addition to the overview of attendance for 2019-22 at subcommittee meetings, plenaries, special plenaries, and portfolio committee meetings, was not satisfied that the 100-hour flat rate should have been extended beyond the stipulated period. The committee was not satisfied with the information hereto as a measure of justification of 100 hours per month for part-time commissioners. The activities reported, together with meeting attendance, would not have sufficed for accumulating 100 hours a month. This was further compounded by the committee's assessment of commissioners' salaries for 2019-20, and having noted that on average, based on crude calculations of the salaries, part-time commissioners worked between 11.7 to 40.1 hours, which is the maximum. So the minimum amount of hours one commissioner worked was 11.7 versus 40 for another part-time commissioner. As such, this brought into question our plenary and senior management that justified the 100-hour flat rate. The committee was also not satisfied with the CVSO's response insofar as variation in salaries between commissioners because of benefits such as travel, given that during the COVID-19 lockdown period, travel was limited and commissioners indicated that they worked from home as well. Moreover, the committee, having assessed all the progress reports of commissioners for the year under review, was unable to see how the continuation of a 100-hour flat rate was justifiable when certain commissioners were not reporting against all strategic outcomes within a given quarter. The current status of that 100-hour, the committee questioned whether part-time commissioners were still paid the 100-hour flat rate and what the justification was given the issues of concern raised. The committee noted that no money has been recovered or written off to date according to the CGE as reported to the ARC. Furthermore, the committee is aware that 4 part-time commissioners had taken up the matter on appeal based on the 2020-21 amount. They have maintained that submission of quarterly reports together with a letter of endorsement from the chairperson of the CGE and an internal circular should suffice as evidence. To this end, the committee questioned whether the ARC was in the receipt of such evidence. The committee was not satisfied with the response of the CGE and noted with serious concern the lack of leadership and accountability demonstrated, as well as not availing proof of evidence for the respective auditors in this regard. And that covers chairperson's concern that whoever was supposed to send the information did not. Failure to comply with the Commissioner's handbook. The committee noted with concern the CGE's failure to comply with the Commissioner's handbook in terms of the claims under 5.3.2, which states this matter is regulated by CGE policy of subsistence and claims. In addition, part-time commissioners are required to file a salary claim every month using the template provided by the CGE Finance Department. Full-time commissioners need not submit salary claims as their salaries are automatically generated through the CGE salary system. The committee noted that the non-submission of timesheets was thus in direct contravention of the CGE's policy, despite submission of quarterly reports in narrative form. The application of President's determination. The committee, having assessed the salaries of commissioners as outlined in the annual report under review, was clear how the President's determination of salaries as per the draft notice was, the committee was unclear as to how this determination was applied by the CGE as the salaries varied considerably. This was noted with concern as the committee was dissatisfied with the response by the CGE in this regard. It was concerning that there appeared to be no consistency in terms of the payment of salaries for both full-time and part-time commissioners. In essence, the committee was concerned that the President's determination of salaries of both full-time and part-time commissioners was not implemented by the CGE. Variations in salaries. The committee, having assessed and compared the salaries of commissioners for 2021 and 2022, as well as 1920, also noted significant differences in the salaries of full-time and part-time commissioners, which was concerning. Notwithstanding explanation provided by the CGO's chief financial officer regarding the manner in which certain commissioners had structured their salary package, the benefit and travel claims varied between full-time commissioners and part-time commissioners. The committee was not satisfied with the CGE's justification for those inconsistencies. The committee also questioned the process of approval, of payments and required more details in that regard. The committee noted with concern that during the briefing by the CGE on its annual report, a commissioner who was converted from part-time to full-time indicated that during her tenure as a part-time, she was paid a lower salary as compared to a fellow commissioner who took office at the same time. Payment to former commissioners. The committee, having assessed the salaries for the last 3 financial years, noted that for Mr. Mgoki, was a full-time commissioner, was paid over 170,000 for 1920, and also received a 13th check and or leave payout of over 20,000. Dr. Mpazi was also a full-time commissioner, was paid over 200,000 for 1920. Mrs. Nzimandi, a part-time commissioner, was paid over 79,000 for 1920. Mr. Shabashla, a part-time commissioner, was paid over 200,000 for 1920 and received an additional 22,000 for the 13th check or leave payout. The committee sought clarity in this regard for the payments given when the term of office had expired. So I've checked when these various commissioners' payments term of office expired. And from what I recall, it was between May and June of 2019. 4 of them had their terms of, 3 of them had their term of office in at the same time, which was in June 2019, and I think that one had it in March or May of 2019. Furthermore, the committee was alarmed by the chairperson of the CGE's response of not having been aware of the payments. This despite having have signed off on all 3 of the annual reports in which the salaries were expressly stated. The committee acknowledged the chairperson's withdrawal of not being aware and shocked at the revelations exposed by the committee. So, chairperson and members, those are the key findings. I'm just going to take you now to the recommendations, so you're able to see how they correlate. If you can just bear with me, I'll take you straight to the recommendations of the CGE. So, in terms of finance, we request for an audit action plan. We continue to request for quarterly reports, that they should maintain a tight control over the fiscus. They should continue reporting on fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The finance report must be in relation to a strategic outcome. In terms of surplus fund, they should report back about the request to National Treasury. Payment of part-time commissioners. The CGE should present to the committee a report on the outcomes of the dispute registered by the part-time commissioners in lieu of the finding of fruitless and wasteful expenditure related to the 100-hour flat rate payment. The CGE should also submit a report to the committee on the decision by plenary to pay part-time commissioners 100 hours during the peak COVID-19 period. Payment to former commissioners. The CGE's HR should submit a written report on who instructed the CEO to pay former commissioners who were no longer in the employ of the institution within 3 weeks of adoption of this report. Payment of leave gratuity for former CEO. The CGE's HR should submit a comprehensive report on the leave payout related to A former CEO, which was wrongly calculated to the committee within 3 weeks of the adoption of this report. Implementation of determination of salaries. The CFO should revise the salaries of full and part-time commissioners to be in accordance with the President's determination of salaries and deal with issues raised by the AG in this regard. In terms of governance, the CGE should finalize its policy that pertains to the interrelations between the administration and commissioners, and this should be submitted to the committee before 2022-23. The handbook, the same applies. It should be finalized and submitted before the end of this financial year, 2022-23. The business model should be submitted to the committee as well. Consequence management. The CGE should hold to account commissioners and employees who transgress policy and laws and ensure appropriate consequence management is implemented. The 17% Provident Fund. CGE should submit to the committee in writing a comprehensive report on the 17% Provident Fund issue. The CGE is urged to finalize the matter. The Legal Practice Council. CGE should present to the committee on how to deal with the matter of the Legal Practice Council in ensuring the CGE is recognized as a legal entity again. The CGE was urged to expedite the matter in order for it to be resolved. And then with respect to program performance, it should prioritize the filling of vacancies, and it should submit a report to the committee that outlines its structure with the positions linked to salaries. To this end, the CGE should also provide the committee with information that illustrates whether the current positions are market related and what are the proposed salaries for positions advertised and how these compare to the market. And I think this was one of Chairperson's recommendations. The CGE should improve on its complaints handling process. It should submit to the committee in writing a comprehensive report on the 17% Provident Fund issue, the AG finding regarding 100 hours worked by part-time commissioners without timesheets, and the compiling of an annual report on the boy child program. GBV, the CGE to report back to the committee and provide a progress report regarding its monitoring of NSP and submit a comprehensive report in this regard. Commissioners to continue to report on a quarterly and annual basis to the committee on their deliverables within each strategic outcome as per the APP. I will just take you now to the specific recommendations to the AG. The AG is requested to investigate the payment of part-time commissioners without timesheets submitted as evidence having taken into consideration the findings of the ARC, the Internal Audit Unit, and the Portfolio Committee. The AG is requested to investigate the discrepancy in salary between full-time and part-time commissioners and the application of presidential determination for the period 2019-20 to 2021-22. So Chairperson and members, just to indicate what the key issues were around the payment of the matters around the payment of part-time commissioners. In essence, we've actually asked the AG for a comprehensive investigation that looks at everything that we have raised in our observations pertaining to payments, discrepancy in salary, and the like, based on the information that was submitted to us and what they still need to look into further. Chairperson and members, so can I just take you maybe back to the observations to see if there's anything in addition we should add or amend? Thank you. Chairperson, can we get feedback around the performance of commissioners, whether this captures, based on the discussion, not just this morning, but through all the meetings that we had so far, and is the recommendation captured appropriately? Thank you.
Shifa, what are you saying?
Chairperson, you're breaking up really badly. We can't hear you at all.
What were you saying?
Chairperson, I've done covering the observations related to the matter of the commissioners as well as the recommendation for the CGE. So we'd just like to get feedback around, firstly, the observations around the performance of commissioners, whether it's captured based on members' input, and whether the recommendations is correct and appropriate. So maybe just to start off with feedback, Chairperson, around the observations about the CGE matters. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Kashifa. Can I get hands from honorable members? Any comment, honorable members? Babu Ngobo? Stay. Masondo?
No, I'm covered, Chair.
Chairperson, I am also covered.
Nazli?
Chair.
Mamshengwa? Honorable
Chairperson, I'm covered.
Honorable Phiri?
Chairperson, it's Honorable Sharif Nazli.
Honorable Phiri? Thank you, ma. Honorable Phiri? Yes, Honorable. Yes, my dear.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, nice. Honorable Phiri? Not in a meeting.
Chair, I'm present. Morning to yourself, morning to colleagues.
Honorable Phiri?
I'm present, Chair. I don't know whether you can't hear me, but
Nazli and Masiko? All right.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And Honorable Masiko?
Can anyone recognize that I'm in the platform?
We hear you, Honorable.
Yes, we can hear you now. Yeah.
You can proceed.
All right.
Chairperson, I just want to come in there quickly. Kashifa, if we could also maybe add in terms of recommendations, the issues around the continued payment of the 100 hours. Chairperson, and I bring this up because when looking back at reports, yes, the CGE chairperson came back and said that it will go until December 2021. But they didn't present any timesheets. They've only presented timesheets from February 2022. So maybe you can put it with AXA, Kashifa, I think you'll know better, but there must be an investigation into that. So obviously somebody was not following procedures. They were not following processes. And we need to mention this as a recommendation because we have to take a hard stand on this, Chairperson. People can't just be getting paid so much money for doing so little work, Chair.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree with you, Honorable Sherry.
Yeah, Chairperson, just to respond, what Herman had suggested to me around that is, so technically, Ms. Sharif and members and Chair, we first need the report from the CGE to say formally in writing that they have extended the 100 hours, because we can't recommend that it should be stopped until we know that it is happening. So the first request is for the report around that 100 hours and has it continued. So that's the only thing we can do at this stage, because technically we can't recommend it should be stopped until we know that it has. And so it goes back down to what are they submitting to us, just like our observations showed. The formal correspondence said was only going to be between April and October. So until we saw this annual report, we can't recommend technically now that it has continued because we don't know. So what I could do is, it can be twofold. We can have a recommendation under the AG to assess whether the, under what conditions, or to assess whether the 100-hour payment had continued and why. So that can be the AG. And then for the CGE, all we can do is just request information on if it has been done. So the recommendation for the AG, I'll indicate.
Okay, Honorable Masiko.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I think one must appreciate the observations or findings as well as captured by the team. One is comfortable, Chairperson, as they appear. But also, Chairperson, to say that I don't know where we can just capture it as a committee generally, that we are really concerned with the performance of the actual organization CGE as a whole and the decline in confidence in terms of the leadership of the structure itself. I know, Kashifa, where we can correctly capture that not only in terms of the observations of the Auditor General and their expression on the leadership of CGE, but also as a committee itself. Thank you.
Chairperson, I'm not sure, but I'm not able to hear anything. As Ms. Masiko provided any additional information? Thank you. Chairperson, Ms. Masiko, just in terms of your comment, I've included B. If you can indicate whether this is fine, and then I'll move to the recommendation by Ms. Sharif and show what I've included. Thank you. Ms. Masiko, Chairperson, if you could just indicate to us, thank you.
Thank you. I see that the chairperson has lost connection, but I'm happy with B when it reads the committee remains concerned with the overall performance of CGE, given the challenges that continue to impact on its ability to give effect to its mandate. I think it's perfectly captured. You can then move to the next one that Honorable Sharif has contributed.
Yeah. So just to move straight there, Ms. Sharif, around what you had proposed. So for the AG to assess whether the payment of 100-hour flat rate to part-time commissioners had continued for the current financial year, 2022, 23, and why. So that's what we're asking of the AG. And then for the CGE, around the same matter, payment of part-time commissioners, I've included the recommendation there. The CGE should submit a report on the application of the 100-hour flat rate in relation to the current financial year 2022-23, together with all relevant supporting documentation. Ms. Sharif, Chairperson, Ms. Masiko, if you can just indicate whether the recommendation is adequate or what should be changed. Thank you.
Honorable Sharif, are you happy with the recommendation as it appears?
Thank you. Yes, Kashifa, I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Kashifa. Then let's move to the recommendations. Is it the recommendations, Kashifa, that what is the, I think it's the recommendation.
Ms. Masiko, so I've presented all the recommendation in relation to this matter. So far, there were just 2 comments. The one observation was from you and the other recommendation was from Ms. Shani. Just in terms of members' input, Ms. Shlongo, Ms. Masondo, Ms. Shlingwa said they covered. I'm not sure whether the other members will want to make some specific observations that we should include or recommendations for this section. So I'll check with Chairperson and members, whoever else hasn't responded, what we should change or add. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashifa. I see that the Chairperson has rejoined the meeting. Chairperson, I'll hand over back to you because we're not seeing any other members, Kashifa, that wish to make any further actions on this one aspect that I've just presented. I'll hand over back to the Chairperson. Okay.
Chairperson, if we can just
I
hear
think
from
the Chairperson, colleagues, is experiencing serious connectivity issues. Kashifa, let us then proceed with the observations as well as recommendations in respect of the department as well as the NYDA.
Okay. Ms. Masiko, if you could just indulge me, just as we finish off CGE, Crystal had reminded me this morning, and Nelisa would also recall, about 10 years ago when the CGE was really going through a bad time. Back then, the committee actually asked for monthly reports of the CGE, or if there's any changes to report. Given that there's 4 committees that would have their contracts come to an end in just over 10 days, and that there's going to be that gap in which all these things need to be addressed until the new people come in. So I don't know whether that's an option members want to consider, that we also put in as a recommendation, a request for monthly reports on key matters that need to be addressed, just so that the committee is aware from month to month, what is it that they're actually doing? Because by the time we get to quarter reports, in some instances, it almost feels a little too late. But that's just something I thought I'd let the committee think about. So just perhaps if we can, is it something that you'd like to consider to include a request for monthly reports from the CGE on key matters they need to address?
I would support that one, Kashifa, but I'm not sure whether honorable members supported. There's Honorable Sharif is saying it's supported. I'm not seeing any hand. Okay, supported. All right, let us include it, Kashifa.
Thank you, Ms. Masiko. So the CGE to submit monthly reports to the committee on key matters of concern and progress year 2. So I'll just move on now to, I don't know, Chairperson's suggestion was, Ms. Masiko, that we should ask from members if they've got any input in relation to the observations. So I don't know whether I should physically go through all the observations of the department, or just check as I go through section by section, whether, as opposed to reading through everything, whether members have any input. But I'll hear from you, Ms. Masiko. I'll go to the, starting with the department.
Okay, I think that is progressive, Kashifa. Honorable members, the proposal that Chairperson had presented in the beginning of the meeting is that the report was sent to all the members last night, and we will take the report as read by members. We will then request that we go through the committee observations through the different sections. And if members wish to make any reflections or additions on each of the presented subtopics, you will then indicate so through the showing of hands, or indicating through the platform itself. You can take us through, Kashifa, as we are starting with 15.1, which is the general observations by the committee. You can proceed, Kashifa.
Thank you, Ms. Masiko. So 15.1 just provides the general observation in terms of the performance of the department, in terms of what the targets were that were achieved, the budget spent by the department, which was 84.7 with respect to the operating budget, which was 203 million. The total appropriation was eventually 1.1 billion. The transfers was which included the transfers to entities of 97 in terms of that which was spent was 97%. The performance of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities program remained an area of concern. Again, most of the targets in program 1 relates to admin. The department's continuous reliance on external service providers. The committee concurred with the AG and ARC's recommendation findings and recommendations. The concern about the minister's attendance to meetings, and the
on that
of
one, Kashifa, can
Yes,
we go back to the one on the attendance of the minister to meetings? Yes, the committee was concerned that the minister did not attend 10 of the committee's meetings. Do we have a number that it's 10 out of how many?
No, this was directly captured based on the observation. I think it was Mr. Ngobo or Mr. Mpiti who raised it. So maybe I can request from the honourable member just to clarify, because that was the number that was stated in the meeting.
Okay. I think, Kashifa, because we are putting it in this report, honourable members, you will guide us. Is it something that is correctly recorded that it is 10 meetings, or it's just an expression that probably if Honorable Mpiti had captured on his own records that it is 10? Is it then correct for us to put it as something that the committee feels that it is 10 meetings? Is it a number that has been verified according to the records that we have of the parliamentary attendance to meetings by all the honorable members, including the minister herself? I just want to check if that is the correct approach.
Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. The statement was not correct because we have not agreed to count the number of absentees of the minister or whoever. We didn't agree about that. And even in our policy, when we did our policy as a committee, we did not indicate that someone will be counted so many. Therefore, that statement to me is not representing us fully. Thank you.
Yabonga, Honorable Piri.
Thanks, Chair. No, I'm covered by Honorable Hlengwa. I wanted us not to put the number, but just to raise a concern that there were a number of meetings that the minister did not attend, but to put the number. I concur with yourself and Honorable Hlengwa. Let us not put it in that manner. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Piri. Yes, Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you, Honorable Masigo. Just to come in on this particular point, one would say that, I've been raising this point on several occasions. And so I do not feel comfortable with simply saying several meetings. I think we need to then get the accurate number. But it was my count, and when I mentioned it, I said more than 10. So I would then request that we get the accurate number and that it does be put on this report, because it's been raised quite a number of times. This is my 3rd time raising it. So I do think that the actual number needs to be put in. And I think that information can be gathered from Uneliswa, who has the attendance records and can basically capture for us the correct digit that needs to be put there. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with the Honorable Member Mpiti. But what is the use of the apology?
Yeah.
What is the use of the apology? Because sometimes you have had the deputy said, Minister, putting forward the apology of the minister. What is the use of the apology? Because if we say that no one could finish the apology because the apology was not counted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. And Honorable Mpiti, is that a legacy hand or is it a new hand?
Thanks, Honorable Masigo. So I just want to come in on that point because in the meeting that we had with the department, you know, the point that's made by Honorable Senga was not made. And in fact, there was no dispute on the point that I raised about the minister's attendance. No one actually said in this portfolio committee that there was a dispute around the apologies. I think the concern was quite clearly made that the minister can miss 3 or 4 meetings, but then when you start counting the number and you realize that it's much more than a reasonable amount. And I feel like now we are discarding those points when, you know, we didn't make them at the appropriate time. So the point that I raised can simply be found out through the minutes. I don't see what is difficult to find out from the minutes. In total, how many meetings were missed? It's not about an apology, it's about the number of reasonable amount of meetings that have been missed. And so my point is on reasonableness and not necessarily on apologies.
I think the point that we are having here, Honorable Committee, is that we can't just put a number, one, that has not been verified in terms of the records that we are having. But two, if we then want to venture, because I think that in essence, we as a committee, we agree with the fact that the minister is missing the meetings, of which she has indicated that one, the minister does not have, in terms of the response that she gave in that meeting when she was asked the question, or when the committee expressed through you, Honorable Mpiti, the concern of the minister not attending meetings. She noted the fact that she does not have a deputy minister in the department. Two, there's a long-standing matter that the department has raised with us concerning the clashing of the portfolio committee meetings with the cabinet meetings. And she then, or there was then also previously a request that we move the meetings of the portfolio committee to a Wednesday if there is an issue with the majority of apologies of the minister coming with the reasons that she is attending cabinet meetings. Now, there is, I think, general consensus on the concern that you are sharing. But when we start to venture into numbers, Honorable Mpiti, because we do understand that some of the apologies that the minister makes, we do not accept them due to the fact that we expect for her to prioritize meetings of the portfolio committee. But other apologies for me are due to the fact that the minister is attending to her cabinet responsibilities in terms of attending to cabinet meetings. Those are the apologies that as a committee, we also feel that she cannot escape from, and we accept them. Now, when a person apologizes to a meeting, the meeting has a prerogative to accept that apology or decline that apology. Now, I think we need to venture into an exercise that then says that which of the apologies that the minister has given, when we want to venture into the numbers, to stating the exact numbers, which of the meetings has the minister not attended and apologized for? Those apologies we accept, and the apologies that we don't accept because we feel that she has not prioritized her responsibilities to the portfolio committee. So if we want to venture into numbers, colleagues, I'm not comfortable with that, but I am comfortable, and I think other members are comfortable with the approach that says we are generally concerned with the manner in which the minister is attending to her responsibilities to the portfolio committees in terms of reporting. I don't know what the feeling of the other members is, but for me, if we want to venture into numbers, then we need to segregate of which apologies do we accept and which apologies we don't accept that the minister has presented to us. But the general feeling is that we are concerned as a committee, but we need to really tread carefully in terms of now the actual number if we want to get into that aspect of naming the meetings that the minister has not attended, so that we agree with the apology and we disagree with her apology that she has submitted to the meeting. Kashifa?
Yes, Ms. Masiko. There's a member on the platform.
Maseko, can I proceed?
Yes, Honorable Kiri.
No, I want us to wrap it in a way that we have wrapped it. Let us, I think all of us, we are agreeing with the perspective that there's a general concern, and only Honorable PT wants to deal with numbers, but I think for us to be fair and, in a principled manner, it's how you wrapped it up to say, members, we know she does not have a deputy minister, and there are meetings like your cabinet that she can't escape. But let us allow and accept the recommendation or the observations that we are making as a committee to say we have a concern. Then it will also be appealing and making a request to the person who's responsible to also assist us and assist the current minister to have a deputy. But I want us to allow Ukashifa to record it, and we proceed with a report the way you have wrapped it up. I think all members to plead with Honorable PT on the issue of numbers and agreeing with him that we are agreeing with the fact that we have a concern of the minister not being present to the meeting. But I want us to, actually mine was to second you so that we move. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Piri. Okay, we can proceed, Kashifa.
So can I just get clarity?
I think we're agreeing that, sorry?
Yeah. So as opposed to several, I've put in many, and I'm also indicating.
But if you are saying many, that's why I'm saying that it's how many out of how many, and how then to assess your many.
Ms. Masiko, so the committee was concerned that the minister had not attended committee meetings and that several issues raised by the committee at the time required the attention of the minister. Example, the underspending of the department, notwithstanding the minister's responsibilities for attendance as cabinet meeting as an example, and the apology however, the committee sought clarity and asked the minister to cite reasons for not attending committee meetings. Is that adequately captured? I just need to make sure before we continue, Ms. Masiko. So the first sentence was changed around the general consensus that the committee was concerned that the minister had not attended committee meetings. Because several issues were raised. We acknowledge that she had other responsibilities like attendance at cabinet meetings and submitted apologies, but the committee still saw clarity and asked the minister to cite reasons for not attending committee meetings. Is that adequate? What else should be changed just before I move on? Thank you.
It seems as though it's adequate. Kashifa, honorable members, is anybody opposed to the observation as it has been captured?
I support, Chair. I support as it captured.
Okay, thank you, honorable members. Let's
Chairperson, I also support as it captured.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Let us proceed then, Kashifa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masiko. Again, just the key observations around the mandate, mission, and vision. What was noted here was in relation to the mandate, how this was given effect to, how can that be supported in terms of policy imperatives, how the departments assessed how government has performed, what it would indicate as an outcome of the assessment in relation to these priorities, based on the work that they did for the year under review, how they gave effect to their mission and vision, and what the evidence was to support that. In terms of key achievements, the committee questioned what of the department's key achievements demonstrated, again, the fulfillment of their mission and vision, and then just the general lack and the concern around the visibility of the department. In terms of policy and law reform, again, how these policies are accessible and available to the public, what the status is of the wage bill as well as the disability rights bill. Program 1, just the general note around the performance of that program. And again, we know, like Crystal have noted to members, that program 1 has got the largest, in terms of the operational budget, the most staff. In terms of HR, we've seen this before in terms of employees. The key issue here is they claim they don't have the requisite resources, but when you look at senior management and highly skilled, it comes to a total of 158 people that should have the required skills to be able to do the workforce, but it's also more than half of the department's, or just under half of the department's entire workforce. So given that number, why can't they achieve all their targets, and why do they have to rely on outsourcing? For SMS, that's senior management. Senior management was being paid just over 56 million, which is about 40, just under 50% of the personnel cost. And then the highly skilled, about 30%. Gender parity, yes, predominantly female, like Crystal noted, but when we unpack that number, the majority of those women are actually in clerical positions, as compared to, even though the numbers for males are low, most of the males fall within this category: legislatures, senior officials, and managers. In terms of use of consultants, for the year under review, 39 consultants were used for 9 projects, comes to 1.848, which is up from the previous financial year, where they only had 33 consultants for 8 projects. So just looking at what they're spending the money on, they're using, in terms of consultants, facilitation fees, for research project, and for monitoring and evaluation. And again, just on those 3, they're outsourcing this, but if members would recall what I just indicated to you about how many highly skilled professionals they have in senior management, it's not clear why they're still outsourcing. In terms of the vacancy, we commend them. They kept it under 10%. DC cases, there was only 2. I mean, the key thing to note around the finance is that 31 million under expenditure. So the key matter here is that this seems to be carrying on. We saw that in the Q1 performance as well. And the majority of that 31 million is actually in relation to the core programs, which Crystal noted to you in her paper. In terms of rollover of funds, they're looking at just over 11 million for mainly ICT, but also because the council hasn't been established. And then there was one other matter around requesting funds for the disability rights instrument to be developed around a framework. And again, just to show members here, they're requesting a rollover of funds, but this is again just to outsource the work. In terms of irregular expenditure, it's that 41 million, but that was from the previous financial year. With respect to fruitless and wasteful, again, the 1.3 million was also from the previous financial year. The same with the unauthorized expenditure, which amounts to 32 million, also historical. In terms of violence, it was 2.185 million. We indicate it was in program 1, and then the cost of employment from program 3 to program 2, 3, and 4. In terms of deviations, so the annual report, Crystal made note to members that there was no deviations in annual report. However, in Q4, there were 16 which the department reported on, and they indicated it was related to, no, from 16, it actually went up to 20, which was amounting to just over 1.9 million. For donor funding, it was that 23 million they received, of which they spent 621,000, but the EU had given a total of, had allocated over 109 for the 21-22 to 2023-24 time period. And again, I think the key issue around this donor money is it was for personnel, but it's unclear how this was not a duplication of services, because they were going to spend the money on technical personnel, it was for data capturers, and I think one other level of official. In terms of investigations and consequent management, the committee concurs with the AG findings. The findings regarding consequent management could not be substantiated due to insufficient appropriate evidence that action was taken against officials that incurred irregular expenditure. This was attributed to a lack of proper and complete records and were not maintained by the department in order to conduct its investigations. However, this was in contrast to the finding by the ARC to be elaborated on in the section hereafter. Again, the issue around the consequence management is why hasn't it happened, particularly in relation to that under expenditure? We captured the concern around the DG saying that she was reluctant to implement, and the committee reiterated to the DG the importance of her role. And I think the one thing that was not clarified, and I think Mr. Mpiti had requested this, was that DG indicated that people were complaining to the portfolio committee. And the request was that if that was the case, it should be made clear who the people were, why they were reported, so that the committee makes it clear that we're not interfering, we're allowing the department to do what it's meant to do. And if that was not the case, that the DG should retract. But as I recall, I don't think the DG provided an explanation in that regard. And again, we just carry on indicating the importance of the DG holding officials to account and implementing the appropriate action. Supply chain management, there was no unsolicited bids. ICT, it was that one plan that has still not been met. It's been unmet since 2020-21. Again, just the ARC saying that the ICT environment was high risk, which could hinder the achievement of its objectives. Just moving on to the AG and ARC, again, the committee concurred with the findings, the repeat findings. We noted that with concern, and this despite the committee having to recommend and monitor and evaluate performance. Again, in terms of compliance, there were repeat findings around the internal control deficiencies, the concern around lack of consequent management, and then just the committee noted particularly around the manner in which the AG was conducting its audit, and that the focus was on program 2, but actually the suggestion was that it should broaden its focus to also look at program 4 and 5 in order to provide much more of a holistic assessment, given that an assessment by the AG of just one program doesn't enable the committee to do astute oversight, because as the auditors, they have access to more information and to do a holistic assessment. Again, with regards to the ARC, across all three, the department, CGE and NYDA, the committee inquired about the relationship with the ARC, and that at times the ARC's findings didn't find expression in terms of the AG's audit, and that that was an area of concern. Again, with the outcomes of the performance audit, the question was there value for money in terms of when the AG had conducted its audit. The committee, you also questioned whether there was proof of the department's regulatory role, and then also around the sanitary dignity program, based on our oversight, what we found and what the AG has actually done in relation to the audit, as they did program 2, what did they find around sanitary dignity? If we found on our oversight that it's not happening, the delivery of sanitary dignity. Again, we noted there was a concern of the report of the CGE, in which the AG picked up that target which was not met was actually reflected as met, but that was corrected. Again, just generally about how often the AG monitors and evaluates and how that's being done, not just at the annual report time, but throughout the year. With regards to the GBVF and the council, the request was, did they actually look into that 15 million and how it was being spent? Because again, they looked at program 2 as the audit, and what did they find in terms of how this money was spent? And the fact that come 31 March 2023, the Secretariat's term of office would come, the contract would come to an end. Around the procurement of equipment by the CGE, that the AG actually didn't have adequate information in that regard. So we noted that as a concern because, again, the emphasis was placed on the CGE having to procure equipment that is needed, and how does the AG assess that? The donor funding, again, the concern was there was a lack of information on how the AG was assessing what donor funding was coming in across the three entities and how it was being used. And just generally around the whistleblower allegations of the NYDA CEO, the concern was that it wasn't coming through in its audit report, and what was being, and if it did, what was done in that regard by the AG, particularly in terms of its scope of practice. What did it actually assess? In terms of the Audit and Risk Committee, the committee acknowledges the findings and recommendations. For the department, it's related to the effectiveness of internal controls, monitoring compliance, and a matter related to IT. In terms of the ARC's finding regarding the progress made in the investigation of irregular expenditure, based on 2021 to 2016-17, that it was done, there was appropriate action. However, this finding from the ARC was different to that expressed by the AG, which brings into question again, are the ARC engaged with the AG on the matter? So generally the underspending, the committee noted as a matter of concern, because if they had picked it up in Q1 already and 2, why was it only a matter? Why was it only seen as a crisis by Q3? And I think Ms. Masiko was saying by Q4, it's almost too late to then want to try and intervene. That if there's a red flag raised, what's being done about it? There was a matter about unbudgeted needs and clarity needed in relation to that. Just general commentary around the fruitless, unauthorized, wasteful expenditure. I think this should be irregular. Moving down to consequence management. Again, the committee questioned how is the ARC assessing whether this actually is being done and what's been the outcome. Because it's reflected concerns around weak leadership and management to be able to take corrective action. Again, the committee noted that it's concerned that the ARC is not getting all the records and reports and information it needs. So again, it questioned, well then was consequence management implemented? I think the emphasis around not implementing recommendations and the underspending, again, what's the ARC, what did the ARC do about it? And who wasn't implementing the recommendations the ARC had suggested from Q1 already. For risk management, we concur with the findings. With the audit action plan, that yes, the accounting officer should develop the audit action plan, but it questioned how effective this plan and the monitoring of the plan was, given that not all the findings were attended to. So outstanding audit findings and risk mitigation actions, this again relates to the point above around the outstanding findings, which was a concern. 3 of it was ICT and 1 was the internal audit. With risk mitigation, generally they improved, but there were areas of concern and how that's being attended to. For the core programs, just generally in terms, it's to be commended for achieving the 35 targets. Policy and law reform, we commend them. They finished the prevention strategy. They tabled the NY amendment bill, and then just recently in last week, it's the GBV, the bill on the GBV Council. But it has yet to introduce the wage bill, South African Youth Development Bill, and the disability bill. Just with reports, we acknowledge the reports, but not all of these reports are actually available on the website. So how is the public supposed to access these? And that even in the committee, we haven't received all of them. So we need the department to submit that. Program 2 achieved all its targets. I think the emphasis here again is about how they spent that 15 million, the transitional arrangements post-March 2023. If the council's not established and the secretariat's contract comes to an end. Again, for program 2, just that money is being set aside for consultants to do work in addition to donor funding. And like we highlighted around the HR, the department has 158 officials in senior management and highly skilled. Why are we still outsourcing? Around the EU, it's just around clarity on the use of the consultants, again, in terms of that EU funding. Around program C, policy coordination and knowledge management. We asked, yes, we know the framework is done, but is the NGM actually established for monitoring and evaluation? The committee just questioned how they do this, given that they have two separate functions. So there's a subdivision that deals with monitoring and they produce separate reports. And there's also a different division that deals with evaluation, and they also produce reports. For program 4, yeah, it's just the under expenditure, which has been persistent year on year. And then again, we request the reports from that program. For program 5, they achieved, it's commendable. I'll just move down now to the NYDA and then finish off on the recommendations for both the department and the NYDA. Apologies, member. So overall, 8th clean audit, 100% of targets achieved. So in many instances, there were targets that were exceeded. But in these instances, we just, as we said last year, it should be reassessed to see maybe the target is set a bit too low and should be set higher. For the ARC, we just, the committee noticed that they met, but wants to know how often. And in their meetings, are they able to identify any areas of concerns during the audit? The issue around the beneficiary and the trailer that was not delivered, that was one of the matters that the AG brought to the attention of the committee as an area of concern. But overall, the committee commended the NYDA on the improvement on compliance and what the improvements were with respect to their internal controls. Their finance, they did not incur any irregular or wasteful expenditure for the year under review. We questioned the time frame for the filling in of vacancies with regards to dismissals and resignations. Again, here we just asked what were the reasons for that and the importance of having to conduct exit interviews. Just for disability, we couldn't find anything in the annual report that says how many people's disabilities are employed or whether their EE target in this regard was met. And I think that's important. With regards to the communication strategy, if it was sent to the committee, given that the feeling on the ground is still not many youth know about the NYDA or the commitments made to address youth development. The CEO salary, I think the concern was that's the amount that is being paid, and yet the work of the NYDA does not reach the young communities. Oh, sorry, I should say the youth in the pension fund. Again, the question was more information about how to invest the pension fund, as well as a question for clarity around the payment to the former CFO. Just in terms of the performance of the board, the observations were in relation to impact and visibility. What are they doing? What can they say about their 100 days in office? Again, I think the concern overall was, were they giving effect to the mandate, and what are their visible achievements? The committee noted around the Russia trip, who attended, how this came about, the implications of going to Russia given the Ukraine war. Again, just in terms of the lack of response by the deputy chair and her traveling abroad, and that even with the response by the chairperson, that it lacked the requisite details in terms of what the NYDA's response is to matters around youth employment, how it performed for 2021, and what the board was doing. That the committee sensed some tensions, therefore you asked about the working relationship. Around attendance, again around board meetings, how often how they're held to account, and then overall the allegations leveled against the CEO and what the board was doing about it. Program 2 of the NYDA, we linked this to the issue of the kitchen trailer, and then questioned when money is dispersed, who's checking to see if the service provider is actually delivering on that and who's doing the monitoring and evaluation, because the assessment was based on one example by the AG that what the NYDA doing in that regard is not enough in terms of monitoring and evaluation. And again, was the key person responsible to check whether service providers have delivered equipment to beneficiaries or not. Around sanitary dignity, whether the NYDA was offering the support to the department during the financial year 2021-22, because that would also give the committee an indication as to how the NYDA was collaborating. Just generally the comment around youth with disabilities, as you've asked before, how they actually benefited during the year 2021-22. For the effectiveness of training, particularly around the life skills and job preparedness, I think Ms. Marekwa, you had raised this concern, like how are they determining whether their training actually works? And I think Ms. Sonyani also noted, well, do people actually get a job once they've gone through the training? So I think it's just assessing, the concern was, are they assessing what they're doing? For the scholarship, how many people benefited, the committee was interested, and whether there was NYDA had a disability champion. For workshops, Ms. Schlegel, I think, noted the issue of the cost of the workshops. And then I think the key concern here was who the beneficiaries who attended at a provincial level. And then in terms of outcomes of training, I think I should just need to move that down. The committee questioned how many young people were employed after receiving training on life skills and the job preparedness. In terms of support for young entrepreneurs, the concern was how are they being able, how is the NYDA supporting, and are they using virtual platforms for youth to be able to apply for grants like WhatsApp? In terms of those APPs, the committee questioned who submitted, who were the one of the departments, what was outstanding. In terms of the status of youth report, the committee thought what were the key findings and the recommendations, but this report hasn't yet been submitted. For the disability IYDS, that's the Integrated Youth Development Strategy, there was intention to host a summit. The committee asked when. For the NSP, the comment from Cabinet was they should ensure there's greater alignment. The committee asked, well, how is this recommendation by Cabinet given effect to? And again, it hinges on how it collaborates with the department in that regard. For the loans written off, the key question was, how is youth supported not to forfeit on the loan repayments, and how long does it take before a loan is written off? And for the 2,000 youth, in terms of youth-owned business in the township and rural economy, what sort of support was being offered to the youth? So for the recommendations, general, there's a request that the department should keep the committee abreast of developments, particularly in relation to the summit on GBV, both provincial and national. The HR should conduct a skills audit. The senior management must ensure proper monitoring in terms of under expenditure. For those who incur the under expenditure, the official, they should be held to account. The DG should implement consequence management against officials for non-performance. The communication unit should improve on its communication strategy to ensure public is aware of the programs of the department. Audit action plans, there should be submitted, it should take heed of the AG and ARC's recommendations and how it intends addressing those recommendations. In year monitoring, it should continue spending trends. It should continue submitting quarterly reports for the spending trend. Again, for every quarter, it should provide a detail of how this is being done. And in terms of the AP against the APP, for the APP, it should be appropriately costed. For irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, that disciplinary action should be taken against employees who have transgressed in that regard. For the deviations, because we picked up that anomaly between the annual report saying there was none versus what was stated in the Q4 report, the committee should, the department should just clarify the matter. For the AG and audit the risk, for the AG, we're requesting that with regards to that whistleblower allegations, what did the AG do in terms of the scope of investigation, to outline what they looked at and what they did not. With regards to the secretariat, Ms. Sharif, I think you suggested that they should provide a report on the expenditure in terms of the 15 million in relation to Programme 2 and the NS and the National Council. You also requested for the AG to submit a report around the Sedibeng municipality issue. That the suggestion was that in the next round of audits, they should look at Programme 4 and not just at Programme 2. That it should improve the manner in which auditing is conducted in the department and its relationship with the ARCs. Again, that the ARC should monitor whether officials who had not implemented the recommendations as per the first quarter, which resulted in underspending, are actually held to account. Just in terms of HR, key vacancies should be filled. Performance management, heads of programs should be held to account for non-delivery in terms of consequence management. The use of consultants, again, review its reliance on it. DC cases, we should be kept abreast and request a comprehensive report. In terms of governance, we just reiterated compliance with PFMA National Treasury regulations. The overall concern is around the non-compliance and adherence to laws. And in relation to this particular matter, what we've seen is for the department, there actually is no target that captures in the APP when they don't adhere to laws or when they underspend. So at the moment, the 95% achievement is in relation to targets. So the impression is they're doing really well. But when you examine their finances and look at some of the governance issues, that's where the concerns reside, but there are no targets in order for the committee to track that. And that's not reflected in the annual report. So the investigations, we should just get a briefing on that and see how far, keep us abreast of developments. For ICT, just to address the risk mitigation actions. Again, just to reiterate the matters pertaining to the SMART principle, and because they keep amending the APP, the recommendation is just to avoid amendments, consistent amendments to the APP, particularly when it's introduced in the latter half of a financial year. For the NGM, we should just be kept abreast of meetings and activities, just generally for treaty compliance, that if there is, it should be submitted. They should monitor and track progress in terms of implementing recommendations, and they must actually present all reports before an international trip is taken. Just generally in terms of reports, they should submit outstanding reports and finalize reports And once it's finalized, it should be sent to the committee at least a month thereafter. Policy and law reform. We should be briefed on the various bills besides the ones that have been tabled. They should finalize the outstanding policies, and the committee must be briefed in that regard at every quarter. For the GBV, for the NSP, we're requiring quarterly updates on the implementation. It should submit that prevention strategy. It should brief the committee on the council bill. And then the secretariat should also brief the committee, which we have invited Asinelli. So I just sent correspondence in that regard via email. For sanitary dignity, again, just to ensure young women and persons with disabilities benefit, that the department reports back on its monitoring and evaluation of the rollout of the program in provinces and its the budgetary allocation. For disability, it should submit quarterly and annual reports on the NDM, which is the National Disability Machinery meetings, and that for the reports it produce, it should actually submit to the committee. More emphasis should be placed on just expediting development of the disability bill. For the national, we're wrapping up national youth development. It should strengthen the collaboration with the NYDA and how it gives effect to that roles. Then just around the South African Youth Development Bill, it should keep us abreast on developments, and it does. And we also request the department to brief us on the NYDA amendment bill. I'll just move straight on to the NYDA recommendations. And then we have completed all our recommendations. The recommendations for the NYDA are not many, but I will take members to that particular section. Here we go. In terms of the ARC, we request some feedback around that beneficiary who had not received her equipment. For the audit action plan, it should be submitted and that it should address the root cause of the problems raised at the next quarterly report briefing. It should report against progress of its audit action plan. And that, again, just to reiterate, that when it reports, it should report its finances against its strategic outcomes. Because we've seen that many of the targets were exceeded, those targets should just be reviewed, and where necessary, it should be set higher. Information around what the whistleblower had sent to the CGE should be sent to the committee. And that poster, once the investigation on that matter is concluded, the request would be that the NYDA briefs the committee on the outcomes. That it should continue its market linkages between the NYDA department, basic education, with respect to the SDB, to ensure that young people actually benefit. Here the request was to the board. What the request is that they should indicate what each member has done with regards to their work in the NYDA at the next committee meeting. The inclusion of youth who are non-conforming within their programs, and that just generally to be mindful of paying more money to the CRO at the expense of the organisation not being able to implement the programs. For National Treasury, to look at the condonation requests, to consider the request for rollover of funds of the department and the CGE. Chairperson, just one more, as I said right from the start, there was one particular matter I wanted to raise with members around what the department has done. So I'm just going to take you there quickly. So members, as I said right at earlier this morning, all members would have received this. So this has been reported on as a target achieved by the department for this for the financial year 2021-22, and it basically says it's done an analysis of APPs for departments. But just to, again, we've seen something similar that was sent before. So this is what they said, how they assess a department and what they've produced. Just looking at what they've noted for Department of Basic Education. It's in narrative style. So under legislation and policies, they basically say, did the department, in this case DBE, make reference to any of the policies where relevant, and they just list them. They look at the situational analysis and they just indicate of DBE in terms of its APP, was there any reference or analysis in terms of women, youth and persons with disabilities, as well as disaggregated data. They note that statistical information was included. In terms of measuring performance, there are specific outputs and sector indicators relating to women. Again, you can see they don't specify what that is and whether it's appropriate. All they say is no reflection of disaggregation of data. Program outputs, there are a few specific outputs on sector indicators targeting 50% of women. And again, that's just a statement, it's not an outcome of analysis. Program outputs, the department's APP did not provide audited performance and estimated performance by sex, age, and disability. In terms of risks and TIDs, no specific risk pertaining to women, youth, and persons with disabilities. So that's it for the analysis for DBE. And in total, they have done 27. So I'll show you what was the last one they captured was Sanby, and that's actually an entity within Department of Environmental Affairs. So members, the reason I've shown members this is, firstly, part of the committee's assessment of how the department is performing is based on the report that they submit. And that is the quality and level of assessment of APPs the department has done within an entire financial year. I just want members to reflect on between Crystal, myself, and Tasneem. We technically have less than a week to go through an annual report of an APP, and we still look at an entity. And if members are aware, and as you know, in our briefing, we technically do an assessment of what is contained in whether it's an APP and an annual report. And the level of analysis that we yield as 3 people within a week is substantive. The department has a year with the entire team and produces what we've just shown. So I think it's very important that the committee schedules time and receives the reports, not only from the department, but from the NYDA as well, in order for us to interrogate what is it that they're producing and what's the quality, what's the outcome. Because on paper, that they would say the target's achieved, but what's the outcome of that target? What's the, as members would often say, are we getting value for money? But I thought that was important just to highlight to members. I'll hear from chairperson and members now, whether there's anything in addition we should be adding or amending. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kashifa, to yourself and the team. We can tell that a lot of work has been done, especially given the constraints that you, or the time limitations that you have noted. So one must greatly appreciate the amount of work that has been put in by yourself and the team. Honorable members, the chairperson is still experiencing network challenges, and she has indicated that in the case that she is not coming through, she has requested that we try and proceed with the meeting. So the report has been presented, honorable members. Kashifa has highlighted the observations from the committee and then also indicated the recommendations. I will take hands that will seek to make any additions or maybe comments, as well as questions of clarity if there are any. I will then recognize your hands, honorable members, if you are having any comments to make. I can see the hand of Honorable Mpiti.
Thank you, Honorable Masigo. I just want to, just two things. The first one is just to join your comments as well, to say thank you so much to the team for putting this document together. It's quite thorough. And of course, it's, when I received it, it was 98 pages. It's now at 96, but you can definitely tell the incredible work that has gone into this report. So thank you very much to the entire team. The only point that I just wanted to add was under the recommendations for the NYDA on the point around international trips. And that we really do need a report from them on all the international trips that have been conducted by board members, so that we are able to, and in fact, I would even extend it to the department, but I didn't make that point to the department when they did present. So I would say that if we could add that point on international travel by board members, so that we do have an understanding of what are these trips for, and what type of assistance are they giving to young people in the country. But without that, with that said, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable PT. Are there any other hands, honorable members, whilst Kashifa is still making that addition?
Masiko?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
A Zanzibar trip. So I want to check with what Mpiti was saying now, if can that also be included in the report? But if it was it will fall off. But if it was for the NYDA, can that be included in that report?
Thank you,
Okay,
Chair.
thank
You were just breaking up again. If you could repeat
Honorable,
again,
what the chair is reflecting on, she was calling me actually on the side, but she had not muted. She's indicating the issue of the Zanzibar trip of the chairperson of the NYDA, and saying that if the trip was not an official trip, then it falls off. If the trip was official, that Honorable Mpiti has raised. So can you?
Thank you, Ms. Masiko. So what I've captured is the NYDA to submit a report reflecting international trips undertaken by board members that outline the purpose, cost, number of board members attended, and outcomes. Mr. Mpipi, just to indicate to you that the department does submit to us, whether it's quarterly basis or even within the end of the financial year, who undertakes international trips and the cost, because that's been one of our standing items. So we do receive information from the department in that regard. But maybe I can just get some feedback, Chairperson, Ms. Masiko, Mr. Mpiti, whether this is adequately captures what you would like. The NYDA to submit a report reflecting international trips undertaken by board members that outline the purpose, cost, number of board members attended, and outcomes. If I can just hear from Chairperson, Ms. Masiko, and Mr. Mpiti and members, thank you.
Chairperson.
Yebo, ma.
First of all, let me welcome the report, a very comprehensive report and detailed one. And I want to support the Honorable Mpiti in his comment. And if one can add on that, I'm a little bit puzzled because this committee is for NYDA, for the youth, but no one was talking about youth. They all go there and no one who's the youth who are representing the youth there. That was my worry, but I accept what it is contained to this report. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu, ma. Umamhlengwa, honorable members, is supporting the J that we have just included. But I think, Kashifa, it does cover the sentiments of both Honorable Mpiti and the chairperson. I don't think we ought to single out a single trip because there are those that are known to us and others that are not known. So if we are grouping them together, it does make sense that we would need a report reflecting all the international trips that have been undertaken by the board members, obviously outlining the purpose, the cost, as well as the number of board members that attended those outcomes. Attended, sorry, and as well as the outcomes. I think the issue of the outcomes is quite important because you need to check against the intended outcomes on whether or not the money has been spent for a correct purpose in terms of whether they meet the intended outcomes of the trip. Are you happy, Honorable, with the manner in which the sentence is structured?
Masiko?
You know, Chair?
Yeah, I've never been so frustrated in the network. But it's because of load shedding. But I don't know, I think the other problem is my gadgets. I saw a trip of ASL Zanzibar. And I saw something, the NYDA being posted in Zanzibar. So what I was saying, in support, in addition to what Honorable Mpiti was saying, I wanted to say, let them report on all the trips they had that going overseas, including that one of Zanzibar, because I saw they posted something at NYDA, but they never reported about that trip in the meeting. Remember when we were with them, they spoke, we asked them about the Russia trip, ne? And the Zanzibar one was not part. So they gave us half-cooked information. So I want us to make and when you write that sentence or that paragraph, that sentence, Guti, e.g., Russia, Zanzibar, and the rest, so that we are specific on what are we talking about. Or we say they must report on all the trips that they have taken overseas or by NYDA, so that, and they must tell us how it benefits young people of South Africa. And yeah. Masiko,
Yes, Honorable Chair.
did you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay.
But what I want to check, Chair, is that does J not cover everything in terms of the international trips?
Okay, let me read it. The NYDA to submit a report reflecting all international, all international trips undertaken by board members that outline the purpose, course, number of board members attended, and the outcome. Yeah, it does. It's right, Masiko, the way it's written.
Yes, Ziboning at right, Chair.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. You can continue. You can continue, Masiko.
Yeah, Chairperson, sorry, we're done on our side. It's just about feedback now, if there was anything else.
Yes.
And that was, so far, that's the only feedback we got, which I've included on screen. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So we are done with all the reports?
Yes,
meaning
Chair.
all the department, NYDA and the CGE.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, okay. It's fine if we are done with all of them, because my laptop was keep cutting. That's why I even called Honorable Masiko just to hear what am I struggling about. It continuously cut. So I can't follow everything. Okay, it's fine. If we are done, Masiko, you can continue.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, I'm not seeing any hands that wish to make any further comments on the report, or any additions or questions of clarity that you wish to make. That's only the addition of the sentence around J that I think we all agree on. Are there any other members that wish to make any more or any further contributions? Okay. There being none, honorable members, I will then request for hands that then wish to move for the adoption of the report as a report that is reflective of the committee's observations as well as recommendations and the committee's discussions of the process as a whole. I will then request honorable members to raise their hands that wish to adopt the report. I see the hand of Honorable Piri, and then followed by Umam Mhlengwa. Honorable Piri.
Thanks, Chairperson. I wish to move for the adoption of the report as we deliberated and made the amendment as a true reflection of what we have observed, and we accept it as it is. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Piri. Mam Mhlengwa.
Thank you, Chair. I am seconding the adoption of this report as a true reflection of what we have deliberated with the amendment. Thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu, ma. Siyabonga kakhulu. Honorable members, the report has been duly adopted by the committee. Honorable Mpiti.
Please note the reservation of the date.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mpiti. Honorable members, we note the reservations of the Democratic Alliance to the report. Do you wish to state any of the issues that you are having with regards to the, in line with your reservation, Honorable Mpiti? Or we should just note?
Yes, please just note the report, as we do have to take it back to our caucus. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, honorable members. The report has been duly adopted. And thank you, Kashifa, and your entire team for the amount of work that you have put towards the final report that you have just presented today. And congratulations on a job well done. Neliswa, what is the next agenda item? If you can move to the next agenda item, it's the adoption of the minutes of the committee.
Yes, I'll flag
Can you
them.
flag them? Yes, please.
Thank you.
Masiko,
Yes, Honorable Chair.
maybe before it kicked me out again, Tuesday we are presenting the remuneration report of CGE commissioners. The determination by the president of the remuneration of the CGE commissioners in the House, and political parties who wish to make a declaration, they can do so. So that report will be presented on Tuesday. That is what I wanted to announce to this meeting, so that at least honorable members, if they would want to make a declaration, they can prepare themselves.
For the notice that you have given to us. Neliswa, can you flag the minutes, please?
These are the minutes of the 6th of September. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable members, before us are the minutes for the Portfolio Committee meeting of the 6th, Tuesday, the 6th of September, 2022. The meeting was considering and adopting the reports on the determination of salaries for the Commission for Gender Equality, as well as the draft report on the petition calling for Assembly to establish the National Council on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. Also, the draft report on the Commission for Gender Equality on Government's Emergency Response Action Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, as well as the draft report on the oversight visit to Northwestern Gauteng Province from the 18th to the 23rd of April. The last report that the meeting dealt with was the draft report on the oversight visit to the Eastern Cape Province between the 3rd and the 6th of July. The minutes, honorable members, had been circulated to all the members. We will take them as read. I will then request for any member that wishes to make any additions to the minutes as they are presented and circulated to us.
Yes, Chairperson, it's Honorable Masondo here.
Yeboma.
Yes, I was absent in the meeting and I put apology to Neliswa, but I don't see my apology in the paper. It's only Sheriff that was forwarded the apology. I don't know whether maybe there's an omission or what.
Yeah.
Okay, can we make that correction, Neliswa?
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Okay. Siyabonga kakhulu Mama Sondo, and thanks Nelisa for making that correction. Honorable members, I'm not seeing any other hands that wish to make corrections to the minutes of the meeting. I'll then request for a hand that will move for the adoption of the minutes with the correction that has been made. Honorable Mpiti.
Honorable Masigo, I move for the adoption of these minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mpiti. Honorable members, Honorable Mpiti has moved for the adoption of the minutes. Can I have a hand that seeks to second the mover for the adoption of the minutes?
Chairperson,
Yebo, ma.
I second the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you very much, ma. Honorable members, the minutes have been seconded by Honorable Uma Muhlengwa and have then been duly adopted by the Portfolio Committee meeting. Is there a next set of minutes, Neliswa?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, please can you fly
I'll
them?
share them now. It's the minutes of the 13th of September, Chairperson. I'll just move up the screen. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Neliswa. Honorable members, before us are the minutes for the meeting of Tuesday, the 13th of September, 2022 on the Zoom platform. The purpose of the meeting was we received a briefing by the Audit and Risk Committee on Q1 report of the Commission for Gender Equality for the 2022-2023 financial year, as well as the briefing by the Commission of Gender Equality for the first quarter report for the 2022-2023 financial year, as well as outstanding matters on the report for commissioners on attendance of plenary meetings, as well as subcommittee and other relevant committees or task teams where commissioners are deployed from 2029 to September 2022. The meeting also considered and adopted the minutes. Minutes were circulated for this meeting, honorable members. We will take them as read by all the members and then move to identify or note hands that wish to make any corrections to the minutes. Okay, honorable members, I'm not seeing a hand that wishes to make any corrections to the minutes. Can I then recognize the hands that wish to adopt the minutes as they have been circulated? Honorable Masondo. Honorable Masondo.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I move the adoption of the minutes as through reflection what transpired in the last meeting.
Thank you, Honorable Masondo. Honorable members, Honorable Masondo has moved. I will recognize a hand that seconds. Honorable Piri.
Thanks, Chair. I second the adoption of the minute as a true reflection of what transpired. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Piri. Honorable members, Honorable Piri has seconded the mover for the adoption of the minutes. The minutes have been duly adopted. Thank you very much, honorable members. Do we have another set, Neliswa?
Yes, Chair, last two sets. It's the minutes of the 11th of October. I'll share them now.
Thank you.
These are the minutes of the 11th of October, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Neliswa. Honorable members, before us are the minutes of the Portfolio Committee meeting for the 11th of October, 2022, whose purpose was the briefing by the Auditor General on the audit outcomes of the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, as well as the briefing by the Audit and Risk Committee of the department, as well as the briefing by the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities on the annual report for the 2021-2022 financial year. The minutes were circulated, honorable members. We will therefore take them as read by all the honorable members. I will then request a hand that wishes to make any corrections to the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of October. Okay, there being no hand, honorable members, I'll recognize hands that wish to move for the adoption of these minutes.
Masiko?
Yes, honorable chair.
Yeah, because you are chairing for this minutes, I move for the adoption of these minutes as a true reflection of the meeting.
Thank you very much, honorable chair. Honorable members, the honorable chairperson has moved for the adoption of the minutes as they appear before us. I'll therefore recognize a hand that seeks to second the chairperson. Honorable Sharif.
Thank you, Honorable Masiko. I hereby second the minutes as a true reflection of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sharif, and thank you, honorable members. The minutes have been duly adopted by the Portfolio Committee as a true reflection of the meeting. We'll then request Neliswa to flight the last set of minutes. Thank you, Nelly. Honorable members, the last set of minutes are the minutes of the 14th of October, 2022, where the meeting received a briefing by the Audit and Risk Committee on the CGE's annual report for the 2021-2022 financial year, as well as a briefing by the Commission on Gender Equality. The minutes have been circulated, honorable members, and I will then identify the hands that wish to make corrections to the meeting as the minutes as they appear before us. Okay, there being no hands, honorable members, I can see the hand of honorable member Masondo. Are you moving for the adoption, Mama Masondo?
Yes, Chair, I'm moving the adoption of the minutes.
Thank
as
you.
true reflection. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Honorable members, Honorable Masondo has moved. Can we then identify the hand that seeks to second? Honorable Sharif?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Masiko. I hereby second the minutes as a true reflection of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sharif, and thank you very much, honorable members. The minutes have been duly adopted as a true reflection of the meeting. I think we've come to the end of the item on the adoption of the minutes.
All the minutes are adopted, are presented, and Masiko?
Chair, all the minutes have been presented. The 4 sets have been presented and adopted.
Okay.
Thank you, honorable members. And I will therefore, because it's the last item on our agenda, I'll hand back to the chairperson to close the meeting off. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, honorable members, to our staff members, our Kashifa, Neliswa, Christel, and Tasnim, Dr. Tembe. Thank you very much for the work well done. Without you as the portfolio committee, we can never produce quality reports. And for all the advices, Dr. Tembe, you always give to us as the portfolio committee. We thank you very much. And to our honorable members, thank you very much, honorable members, because without your presence in the meeting, there can never be a portfolio committee meeting that collates, that sits. You are always there in the meetings. You always make sure that you prioritize our portfolio committee. You show dedication and commitment that every time when we are in the meetings, your participation adds value, and it produces the desired results. And hopefully, you know, whatever work that we're doing as a portfolio committee, you must know that South Africans are noticing it, and they know that this portfolio committee is serious at work. We are trying our level best to do oversight. Where we are not doing very well, they are free to write to us as the portfolio committee and raise whatever issues they want to raise with us. For as long as it is constructive criticism, we will accept it. We are not rigid to of views that maybe are sent to us as the portfolio committee, but we always consider whoever writes letters to us as the portfolio committee, we do read them, and we take those that are going to help the committee to do our work in a very productive way. And thank you very much, honorable members. Thank you very much, Masiko, for coming on board when whilst I was struggling with internet and the network connectivity is a problem. I don't know, this time it's not the battery or whatever. I think it's just network which is having a problem, because I've tried all my gadgets today and they were failing me. And thank you very much, honorable members. I think we have come to the end of our meeting. See you next week. Maybe Honorable Masiko, the person who's going to present that report of remuneration of CGE commissioners on behalf of the committee, it's not the chair, it's Honorable Carol. So we are going to assist with the report. Myself and the staff will assist with the report so that at least that day, Honorable Carol is ready on Tuesday so that she can be able to present that report on behalf of the portfolio committee. Thank you very much, honorable members, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye.
Chairperson,
Thank you, Chair.
we are meeting in person next week.
Next week.
Yes,
next week, Tuesday, yes, in the morning. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.